on this computer. Hello, welcome to this month's webinar, which I renamed at the last minute when I was putting together my PowerPoint. It is now called Grow Your Email List and Use It to Grow Your Business. So with that in mind, I am going to go ahead and screen share so that you can see my lovely PowerPoint that I put together. And we're going to hit slideshow. Come on, work with me here from beginning. All right, so we are here today to talk about how to grow your email list and use it to grow your business. It is one of the most powerful ways to grow your business. And with that in mind, we can head right into the next slide, which is all about why you should bother emailing. Is email? I hear this all this time. I hear people saying blogging is dead. I hear people saying email is dead. I'm not sure Mary Wu ever hears people saying social media is dead, but I hear this a lot about my industry, and it's just not true. Everyone checks their email on average 15 times a day. So when that 15 times per day is on average. Some people check it more. There are stats about a lot of people checking their email even before they get out of bed. I am not one of those people. I am trying to cut back on my email checking. I saw something somewhere where you're supposed to check like no more than 3 times per day. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen for me. I don't think I'm up to 15 times per day, but I could not promise that I'm not up there. So it's a great chance to get in front of people. Not everyone is on social media. Not everyone is doing this, that, or the other thing, but everyone is checking their email. The inbox is also the last place left where people have to invite you in. There is a little bit of advertising space in emails now, especially in Gmail, but it's not like social media where it feels like these days every other post is an advertisement, right? And you search something on Google and usually the top 3 posts are advertisements. You really don't have that with email. It is the last place where people invite you in. So take advantage of that. Don't think that you are bothering them every time you email them because they asked to get updates from you. So assuming they asked to get updates from you, we'll talk about that later. It's also the only place where you can customize what each recipient sees, right? So it's not like you can put out like a social media post where everyone sees the same thing. You can customize it so that different groups see different things, which makes it that much more valuable for engaging people and staying on top of what they're interested in. So now that we know that email is not dead, it is a very important way to grow your business. We can talk about how to use it, but first I do want to talk a little bit about who I am so you know why the heck you should care what I have to say about it. I am just a lowly writer who always wanted to be a writer when I grew up and was told that writers don't make any money. So I went to college and ended up majoring in English and psychology, which turns out to be the perfect degree for content marketing. Had no idea what content marketing was, had no clue this was an option for me. By the time I graduated, I thought I wanted to work in publishing because I figured if I couldn't make a living writing books, maybe I could make a living making books. So graduated in 2009, right after the job market crashed. So there were no jobs to be had in publishing or really anywhere else. So that was fun. So, I answered phones for a few years, ended up between jobs at one point, and my roommate at the time, her dad, who was an attorney, was awesome and offered to give me stuff to do around his office until I got back on my feet. And one of the things he needed was someone to write blog posts for his law firm. And he knew I had a strong writing background, so he offered me the gig, and I was more than happy to get paid to write. So I jumped at that chance, said, yes, please. Started writing for him, would write about 2 to 4 blog posts per month. And after 6 months, he came and told me that I had brought in $75,000 worth of business for his law firm. And that was when I was first like, maybe writers can make money. Maybe there is something to this content marketing business. Although I didn't know it was content marketing when I started to do it. I called myself a freelance writer, which led to some confusion. And it took a while before I was like, I'm really a content marketer. So that was when I was able to bring in the psychology degree that I earned and apply it to the writing that I was creating so that I could actually convert the people who are reading what I'm writing. So not only are they enjoying what I'm writing, but they're actually giving me money or my clients money as a result of having read that. So that's a little background on me. And obviously blogging turned into email marketing, turned into SEO. I fell down the SEO rabbit hole. I do not do social media. That is one thing I do not do. You can talk to Mary Wu about that if that's something you're interested in, but my specialty is the long form content. So that's what I talk about. That's the services that I provide. And that's what we're going to talk about in this webinar. We are talking specifically about email marketing and how you can use it to grow your business. First and foremost, optimize your headline. That is the one chance that you have to get people's attention. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing for a minute and share my screen instead to show you something else. This is my favorite headline analyzer tool. Can everyone see my browser window? This is called Headline Studio. You can see the URL up there. It's by CoSchedule. They have a bunch of tools. This is my favorite. This one I use all the time. I'm just gonna select another, here we go. Here's another headline that I researched earlier. So you type in whatever, this is something I typed in earlier when I was researching something. I think this was for another blog post that I wrote. So this is your overall score. It's 1 out of 100. Anything higher than 75 gets you the green light. You're good to go. It talks about common words, which are whatever. And then there are emotional words. People buy on emotion. So you have to make sure that there's at least some emotion in there. So we got our one emotional word in there and our one power word in there. This is something that really grabs people's attention and makes them go, yes, I want that. So this is kind of the breakdown of the emotional effect that your headline is having on the people who read it. Character count. Okay. For some reason, CoSchedule says headlines that are 70 characters long tend to earn the highest number of click-throughs. That's not actually true, because if it's longer than 70 characters, it runs off the page, off the screen, and people can't even see the whole headline. That is especially true now that everyone is increasingly on their mobile devices. Most people check their email these days on their mobile devices, which means your headline can't even be 70 characters long. It has to be even shorter before it starts running off the screen. That is why I always recommend making sure that your keyword is in the first 3. How to conduct, mine is actually in the first 4, but put it at the beginning of your headline so that that gets people's attention, and that lets them know, especially if they're searching for something, that lets them know that this is about whatever it is that it's about. So give them that right off the bat. If you put the keyword at the end, they're not necessarily going to know what the heck you're talking about. So character count, it recommends 60 characters, but take that with a grain of salt. How-to is great. It gives you points for having a how-to headline. People love the how-tos because we want to learn how to do stuff. Reading grade level, mine is a little high, but my audience also tends to be a little high. I work with a lot of B2B and professional service providers, a lot of people who are very, very highly educated. If you're in an industry, I think it's recommended like 6th or 7th grade reading level is really recommended. And again, depends on your industry. So this is another thing that you can take into account. Clarity, again, short words, those like 1 to 2 syllables tend to do best. Once you get into those longer words like business, that's when you get into those, again, higher reading grade level. So again, just know your audience. It's positive. And then this gives you the breakdown. So market research is, that's what my topic was. And it's kind of buried in there, right? People scan the first 3 and then the last 3 letters or words, I mean, of your headline, because it's got to be super scannable. So burying it here in the middle is not great. But I still got an overall, score of 77. It's still a pretty good score. So that is how you can optimize your headline and make sure that it is really strong. And now I'm going to go back to sharing my PowerPoint. So you got to get your keywords in there and emotion and keep it short. Otherwise it's going to run off the screen. Now we are going to talk about how to get people on your email list, because that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? So first of all, I did not actually say this on here, but I should have said it. don't spam people. Don't put people on your email list just because they gave you their business card or you were at a virtual networking event with them and they put their email address in the chat. So you decide that that means that you can put them on your email list. That is not what that means. That is a great way to get a whole bunch of unsubscribes and or people who just never open your newsletter. And that's not going to help you convert them into customers. So I didn't put that in my list because I feel like that's obvious, and yet people keep doing that. And I was just reading this morning about someone running into that problem. So I'm going to put it in there just in case it's not clear. Don't spam people and put them onto your list if they have not specifically requested to be on your list. I know I use Mailchimp and I can manually add people to my list, but Mailchimp always asks me to check a little box saying, yes, I have permission to add this person to my list. They specifically verbally ask me to do it for them. So keep that in mind. Another great way is a lead magnet. I just got a prospect a few weeks ago who reached out to me out of the blue and wanted to talk about my services, and I couldn't figure out how this guy found me. And I realized the email I got from him was in response to an email that was part of my drip campaign that people get after they download my lead magnet. So I was like, it works. So your lead magnet can be super simple. It can just be like a checklist, or it could be an ebook, like a really short ebook, like even if it's just 3 to 5 pages. Have them download a guide to something. It could be a flow chart, obviously related to your industry, whatever product or service you provide. Again, those how-tos tend to be really popular. So think about what it is that would make people go, yes, I want that. And I will give my email address in exchange for it. Try to make it super clear that by giving you their email address, they are signing up for your newsletter. If you're not familiar with the Gdpr, which I cannot remember off the top of my head what that stands for, that is a European law that basically means anyone you cannot get people onto your email list with a lead magnet unless you make it super clear that you are getting them onto your email list. And since it is the World Wide Web, we all have to assume that people visiting our website might be visiting from European countries. I know I get visitors to my website from European countries, so just keep that in mind. Ask for referrals to your list. That is another great way to get people onto your list. If people are on your list and you say, hey, do you know anyone else who would really enjoy this? Then absolutely send them a link. You can share your post on social media. Every time I put together my newsletter, my newsletter, I put it out on social media. Have joining your newsletter as your CTA, that stands for call to action. So for example, again, I work with a lot of B2B and professional service providers. So it doesn't always make sense for them to, have a blog post and then have the call to action to be buy from me or schedule a call, because they're not always there yet. If they've just now discovered you, maybe they're exploring a certain topic, maybe they're not ready to reach out or to buy anything from you, but they might want to sign up for your newsletter so that they can continue to get updates and learn more about who you are and what you do. So that can be a great way to to grow your email list. Contest, giveaway, people love those. So those can be a great way to get people engaged and get them signed up to your newsletter. Make it super easy and short to sign up for your newsletter. Just like, I think mine is just first name, last name, and your email address. That's really all I need to know about you. The easier you make it, the more likely people are going to be to actually do it. And then your calendar link. I do this all the time. All of you who registered for this probably saw an option. I said, do you want to get updates from me? And I know some of you said yes, because I went and checked my newsletter and I had more people on my newsletter list. So that's super exciting. Even just getting one-on-one meetings with people. I know some people that I have those meetings with will say yes to that when they schedule a meeting with me. So that can be just a really simple way to really take advantage of your network and the people you're networking with in real life or on Zoom, which for some of us is as close to real life as we get sometimes. So that's a really great way to, again, take advantage of your network, get them onto your email list, and really keep them engaged. When should you send your newsletter? There is no one right answer to this. Obviously, everyone wants to know how often they should send a newsletter. I send mine every week and I never get complaints that I'm sending them too often. So I think you are perfectly safe to send them once a week. Absolutely no less than once a month. Any less than that, and people are going to forget who you are or what this newsletter is or whether they signed up for it. So I would say ideally 1 to 2 times per month. Midday, midweek is best. Midweek being Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Midday being that 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. hour. That's usually after people have, gotten to the office and they've settled in and they've checked all the email that came in overnight and they're getting ready for lunch or they're just coming back from lunch. That tends to be a really good time. According to Mailchimp, Tuesdays and Thursdays are best, but track your own data. I started sending mine at like 7:30 in the morning on a Tuesday because that's what one of my competitors was doing. But I looked at when people were actually opening my email and it turned out to be a little later in the day on Wednesday. So now that's when I send my newsletter, is at like 8:30 or 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. And my open rate increased. So don't assume that the general is going to work for you, because I know I also have newsletters that I subscribe to that might come to me during the week and I don't open them until the weekend because that's when I have time for them. So also track that. Are people opening it on the weekend? Are they opening it during the week? Again, this might depend on your industry. I definitely get more newsletters from like DSW over the weekend because they assume I'm going to be shopping over the weekend, whereas like Planet Money sends me newsletters in the middle of the week because they assume that's when I'm checking that email. So understand your target audience and track that data. You can also personalize sending times. This is a really cool feature that I know Mailchimp has. I assume other places like Constant Contact have it, where you can send it to different groups at different times. So you can absolutely take advantage of that. Regardless of when or how often you're sending out your newsletter, the most important thing is just to be consistent. If you're going to send it out every week, send it every week. And like I said, same time, same day. Once you figure out what that sweet spot is of what day and what time really works for people. But once you find out what that sweet spot is, be consistent with it, stick with it. Again, Mailchimp makes it really easy for you to create stuff ahead of time and schedule it to go out. So you don't have to be in Mailchimp or Constant Contact or whatever. Right when you need to send it out, you can schedule it to send out while you're doing other stuff. So just be super consistent with it. Segmenting your audience is a really great way to keep them engaged. And it is a little techy, but it's not super techy. So what you can do, again, I know Mailchimp lets you do this. I assume all the other Constant Contact and Active Campaign and all those let you do this as well. You can segment your audience. So what that means is, let's say I write a blog post about email marketing. I can have my call to action at the end can be to sign up to get such and such at the end of the blog post. And I can create that on my end so that that has a tag, so that anyone who signs up for my email list using that form, they're going to get put into the email marketing segment of my audience. Now, anytime I want to put out content about email marketing, I can make sure it goes to that audience. So they're all only getting information that they have already said they're interested in. You can split it up into as many different types of audiences as you want. I could do the same thing for blogging, for SEO, for content strategy. That way, if someone is like, I want to know more about blogging, but SEO kind of intimidates me and I don't want to know about that just yet, that's fine. They don't have to see any content about SEO. They can just see the content I create about blogging. Although there is a lot of overlap, so I'm not sure it's possible to talk to me these days without hearing about SEO, except again, when it comes to email marketing, because SEO doesn't really factor in there. So segment your audience. Great way to keep them engaged. I see Samantha raised your hand. Do you have a question?
I do. Thank you so much. So I work as a virtual assistant and I mostly do social media, which is pretty much what I do my newsletter on right now. But I also work on like websites and general admin services. Do you recommend I start like doing a newsletter for each and every thing, or should I just stick with like the one thing and include the other thing occasionally, or how do you recommend I segment it a little bit more?
It's really up to you how complicated it's going to be. Like if you're really talking about a few things, most of the time and you're only occasionally talking about something, that might, that
Mhm.
other thing, that might lead you into, you're sending stuff to that audience less than once a month, in which case they're going to forget who you are. So obviously I don't know the details of your business, but that's just something to consider. Like, are you writing about it frequently enough to make it worthwhile?
I do it once a week.
Okay. Then yeah, I think that would totally be often enough.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Unsubscribe. So in order to avoid the dreaded unsubscribe, follow the advice provided in this presentation, right? Make sure that you are providing value. Did I lose my, okay, somewhere in here I had what to put in your newsletter. Let me back out of this. Did I I lost it. Sorry, folks. I don't know what happened there. So let me talk about what you should put in your newsletter, because that's super important. It can be anything from blog posts to videos to events that you are having that maybe you want to be promoting. It can be, absolutely, it can be sales. If you have, like, when I published my book, I put that all over the place. I was like, hey, I have this book, buy my book, right? Everyone should know all about this book that I'm having. This webinar that I'm hosting, I put in my newsletter for at least 2 or 3 weeks before today, because I wanted people to know about it. So events, videos, if you're on a podcast, whether you have your own podcast or if you are a guest on someone else's podcast, absolutely promote the heck out of that. Obviously, it's a great way to, same with guest posts. If you write a guest blog post for someone else's blog, promote the heck out of that in your newsletter. So promote the heck out of that. If you're going to be speaking, I have been doing more speaking lately. So when I'm going to be speaking at an event, I put that as well. I say, hey, I'm going to be speaking here. So if you want to hang out and come see me speak, absolutely come to this event. The people who are hosting the event, the people who are hosting the podcast and your guest blog, they love seeing that you are helping them promote their thing. So, and it provides authority, because you're showing off that other people are having you as a guest on their platform, whatever that platform is. So take advantage of that. Gift guides, especially as we start to head into the holiday season. I know it's only September 15th, but we're going to get there faster than you think. So gift guides are always great. How-tos, yeah, get creative with it. I don't think there's anything you cannot put in there. The only thing I would say, you can even put like updates to your company, updates to your industry. Like Google just had a major change to their algorithm that they rolled out. So I talked about that on my blog, and then I talked about that in my newsletter. So that is something that you can do, is updates to your industry and also updates to your company. Did you hire someone recently? Is it your company's anniversary? I just had my company's anniversary, right? So everyone on LinkedIn has been wishing me happy anniversary, and I probably should have put that in my newsletter and didn't even think about it, because I always forget when it happens until I get those LinkedIn messages. FAQs are always really good. Some of those questions that you hear all of the time when you're talking to prospects or clients, or when you're at networking events, if you hear some of the same questions, those should probably also go into your newsletter. So those are just some ideas. Pet pictures. I know Mary always comes to me for pictures of my dog. So yes, people love seeing the pet pictures, even if it has nothing to do with your business. You can do like a just for fun kind of a thing. You can do memes. I've been doing memes lately, not in my Mailchimp newsletter, but in my LinkedIn newsletter. I've been putting a little just for fun section at the end, just because it makes me happy. And I assume that it makes other people happy as well. Oh, my dog got up because she heard me talking about it. You can and should promote stuff, promote your services, especially if you're launching something new. That is a great opportunity to push that out into your newsletter. I would just say, make sure your newsletter is primarily aimed at providing value rather than selling. Because if you're just sell, then people are going to unsubscribe. I've had that where I sign up for a newsletter thinking I'm going to get updates, and all I get is sold to, and that annoys me. So I unsubscribe. So keep that in mind. Yes, you can and should lead them through the funnel, right? If they're in your email list, then there's an opportunity to convert them, and you should take advantage of that. But if all you're trying to do is get them to buy from you, then you can ruin that chance to convert them. So keep that in mind. I would say about 20% sales and 80% providing value. Now I can talk about unsubscribes. So yeah, follow the advice provided in this presentation. Keep your promos to 20% or less of the emails you send out. And finally, just let it go. Some people just are not meant to be in your audience. And if they've been following you for a while and it's not for them and they unsubscribe, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Some people actually recommend going through and cleaning up your list every once in a while. You can send out emails to anyone who has not opened your email for the past, let's say 6 months. And you can say, hey, I know you've been doing this for a while, haven't opened any of my emails. Are you still interested? If yes, click here. If no, click here, and we'll take you off our list. And you can also say if they don't respond that you'll take them off their list, because sometimes they don't check that email. That email is dormant. They're not checking it anymore. So they're not even getting your newsletter. So go ahead and unsubscribe them. And that's a way to clean up your list, especially since like Mailchimp charges you based on how many people are in your audience. So if you have people who are in your audience who are just taking up space, that's not good for you and it's not good for them. So if they unsubscribe, it's okay. I know people who get upset about it. Don't get upset about it. Just let them go, and just know that now you can really focus on the people who actually want to hear what it is that you have to say. So with that in mind, I see we have a couple hands raised. So this is the Q&A session. This QR code is so that you can learn more about what it is that I have to. That is the link to the page on my website that is all full of DIY resources. So if you want to do your own email marketing and blogging and all that good stuff, you can get my book, you can get the companion book, you can join my blogging group. There are all kinds of ways that I provide resources for you to do that on your own, which is another thing you can put in your newsletter is your resource lists. If you have tools that you love, if you have books that you've read that you recommend that are related to your industry, absolutely put those in your newsletter, because people love hearing about those as well. Now I am done talking. And Lee, you had your hand raised first, so I will call on you first.
Thanks, Allison. I have a couple of questions. So I'm older, and so when I think of newsletters, I think of literal paper with a multitude of articles and photographs. Now, there's newsletters that you send that are generated from a Constant Contact, for instance. And then there's this newsletter feature on LinkedIn. Could you tell me first, how many articles or bits of content do you put into your average newsletter? And second, what's the difference between an LI newsletter and a generated newsletter like you send out in email? And do they have to be totally different? Could you just fill me in? Thank you.
Yeah, I have absolutely heard from people who say they put the exact same thing in both their newsletter and their LinkedIn newsletter, because they're different audiences. Some people are following them on LinkedIn who are not signed up for their newsletter, so they don't think that it's any harm to them to create the same content in two places, in which case that totally makes sense. So you can, in theory, create your newsletter over on Mailchimp or Constant Contact or whatever it is you use, and then promote it over on LinkedIn. But then that post is going to have a link that takes people away from LinkedIn, and LinkedIn does not like that. So your post could suffer as a result. Whereas if you have a LinkedIn newsletter and that's your post, LinkedIn loves that. So LinkedIn is going to promote the heck out of that. And Mary can correct me if I'm wrong here. But it will get more visibility on LinkedIn and also go to people's inboxes. So I don't know if everyone is aware of this, but when you have a LinkedIn newsletter, not only is it a post on LinkedIn, and people who have subscribed to it on LinkedIn will get a notification in their LinkedIn notifications, but it also goes to their inbox. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. I'm not saying one or the other is necessarily better or worse. It's just like what works for your audience and where do you want to be super visible. So yeah, I think I tend to do 4 or 5 different pieces of content on my LinkedIn newsletter, and that's mostly what I've seen other people doing. My Mailchimp newsletter that I do tends to be a block of text that then leads to my blog post. And then I usually have something that I'm promoting. Again, it could be my webinar. It could be, you know, whatever it is I want to promote that particular week. And then a call to action to reach out to me. And that's really all I put in my newsletter. And I'm going to skip down to Mary Wu because I assume that she's going to correct me on something that I've just said.
Well, Allison.
I'm actually going to ask you for a point of clarification. I know people can and do put content in their LinkedIn newsletter and Mailchimp newsletter and then swap it to the other one. Does the SEO see that as, oh my gosh, they're putting the same thing in two places? Stop.
I'm not sure Google really tracks those. I mean, Google can see what goes in the LinkedIn newsletter because that goes up on the internet as a LinkedIn post. I don't think it really tracks what's going through our inboxes. So I don't think that's a problem.
But if you're putting it as a blog on your website and putting it on a newsletter on LinkedIn, then it'll be like,
that's a problem.
okay. And I love the LinkedIn newsletter. I get a better open rate than on Mailchimp, and it is always seen by people that aren't looking at my other content. So it's like this whole new entire universe opens up to me.
Yeah, well, and I started my LinkedIn newsletter not that long ago at all. And within like a few weeks, I had like 100 people subscribed. And it took me way longer to get that many subscriptions via Mailchimp. So, yeah, all right. Tracy, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I apologize. I came late, so I have a couple of questions that you might have already addressed. So sorry. And if you want me to watch the recording, I have no problem with that. I did have the length as a question, so that was good. Okay, so the literal format of the newsletter, if you're doing it in like a Mailchimp or whatever, do they have that as a template that you just fill in? Like I've never done a newsletter before. So do you create it yourself? Like, I know it's not a Word document. Like, so what is do those mail organization tools provide a template? That's my first question.
They actually provide a variety of templates. So you can either custom build your own template, or you can say, I want this one, or I want this one over here, or I want this one because I'm selling something, or I want this one because I'm just pushing out an update. So yeah, and I think that it's super user friendly. I've been using Mailchimp for a while now, and it makes it really easy for you to like move stuff around.
Okay, thank you. And so then my other question is the email lists themselves. Like, I know I heard you say that people sign in or say, hey, yes, I want to be part of your email list. So like my millions and billions that I literally have all my business cards here on my desk to contact people, I'm not able to send them newsletters, correct?
No, not unless they said, sign me up for your newsletter. Even if you do manually put them into your newsletter list, Mailchimp or Constant Contact or whatever should send them a confirmation email to say, hey, you've just subscribed. Did you mean to subscribe to this thing? And they can click yes or no. So yeah, I never recommend adding them to your email list unless they specifically said, please add me to your newsletter list.
Okay, so how do you go about asking them that then? And again, you may have already, and I apologize for.
Yeah, that's okay. I did cover it. That's okay. I tend not to ask them in person so much. I do rely on things like lead magnets, asking for referrals, sharing on social media, using it as a call to action, running a contest or a giveaway. And my calendar link is a great way. So like when you registered for this, you would have seen a little, hey, do you want to get, updates to my newsletter? And you could click yes or no. In person, it usually just tends to come up in conversation. People ask me about my newsletter or like what they should do in their newsletter. And so then I tell them what I do in mine. And they're like, oh, sign me up for your newsletter. And then I make a little note to sign them up for my newsletter. So it's not something that I ask everyone I meet. It's just if it comes up in conversation, great. If not, I don't really worry about it.
Okay, and then one last question, because I don't want to monopolize the whole thing, but run a contest or giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
Like I did do that in an in-person networking event or where I spoke. I actually spoke. I was the speaker. And so I didn't say, though, that it would be part of my newsletter. I said they were going to get like a giveaway from me. So then that's still a big no, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You should make sure that as part of participating in the contest or the giveaway that they are signing up for your newsletter. Yeah. Make that super clear.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sure thing. All right, Samantha.
Hey, yes, I was just going to suggest too, going off of what you guys were kind of saying, with my newsletters, what I generally do is like, so I've got like kind of a letter formatting at the top portion of it. And then I go into like the meat and potatoes, so to speak, with like the tips and tricks about social media. And then I go into like this connecting point with them. And then I go into like the about us section kind of thing. And what I generally do is I take the, I love to repurpose my content because I believe in like working smarter, not harder in your social media.
Absolutely, yes.
So I will like copy and I will literally, I'm not kidding, this is what I do with my social media guys. I literally copy and paste the bullet points that I had in my social media and like the meat and potato section that I told you about, the tips and tricks. I will paste that into a LinkedIn article. I'll go over to Canva, create like a nice, I'll make a nice little cute header, so to speak, for that article. And that's what I'll post in my like business page. So that's kind of a nice way to repurpose that content. And I'm going to be working on a blog soon. So hopefully, you know, like it's still like on my to-do list. But I mean, that's basically what you can do with that too. And that's how I'm going to repurpose that is I'm also going to be putting it on a blog. So
yeah,
which I would love to get some tips on how to like kind of, I've read a few things about blogs with ways to monetize it. So I would love to like connect with you later, Allison.
Sure.
I sent you a connection request if that's okay on LinkedIn, because I would just love to get that idea from you if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
All right, Lee, you had another question?
I do have another question. Yes, it's about former clients. I have a lot of former clients, some of whom I have not been in touch with in a while. And since they last heard from me, I was living in Vermont, yada, yada. Should I send an email to a lot of my former clients and within that say, oh, and by the way, I now have a newsletter. Would you like to subscribe to it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You think? Because I can't just automatically add them.
Right.
So I'm going to have to do it the other way where it's a more personalized email, not a newsletter, just a hi, it's been a long time. I hope you're well, yada, yada. And then, okay. And that gives me the permission to put them on my list.
Yeah, absolutely. And give them a reason to sign up. Like, this is what you're going to be getting. I always say at the end of my blog post, like, if you found this content useful, if you want to get more like it, you'll get it sent to your inbox every single week. You never miss an update. So give them a little taste of what they're going to get as a result of signing up so that they have a reason to sign up.
Thank you. That's a great idea.
Sure.
Wow.
Yes, Mary.
Thanks, Allison.
You're welcome.
If you're ever really, really bored and want to go to sleep, but you can't sleep, read the GDPR and then read the CAN spam laws, or listen to what Allison is telling you right now and save, you know, a few $100,000 for not getting in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, that could get you in big trouble. All right. Do you have another question, Lee, or is your hand up there from before? Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Are we all out of questions? Everyone got what they wanted? I saw chats come in, but I didn't actually get a chance to read them. Mary's talking about LinkedIn newsletter, building the relationship.
I think
Yeah,
you're
Laura, it
talking
needs an
about-
unsubscribe option. I do believe they all come
Yep.
automatically with an unsubscribe option.
Yep.
It's just that it tends to be tiny and in gray and hard to, and you kind of have to hunt for it. But yeah, and actually someone recently reached out to me about a typo that is in my newsletter, but it's not something that I write. It's part of Mailchimp's block content that I can't actually change. And I was like, you're right, that's wrong. I can't do anything about it. So, but yeah, there is,
And they
yes,
count
you can absolutely give
unsubscribe
each,
and get
yeah.
mad if you get too many.
Well, I'm sorry. Oh,
They get upset about too many unsubscribes. So if you're adding people on thinking they can unsubscribe if they don't want to be here, any of them, Mailchimp, Aweber, will get very unhappy if you get too many unsubscribes.
yeah. So yeah, and they should all automatically have unsubscribes. General Data Protection Regulation. Thank you, Mary. That is what GDPR stands for. And yeah, they're working on a US regulation that's similar, but it's like, it's the internet. It already applies to all of us. Is this even, too little, too late? Yeah. So more hands raised, more questions. Lee, I'm going to start. No, yes, no from Lee. Yes, from Tracy. Go ahead, Tracy.
Thank you. So the first thing I want to say is, Mary, I totally agree with you with the LinkedIn newsletter, because when your newsletter pops up, like I'm immediately in it. So you're welcome. I totally agree, because like it's just because it's there and it pops up and it's easy. I don't have to click on anything. I mean, other than saying open or whatever, I don't have to hunt for it. I don't have to do anything. So and I find them super helpful and useful. So thank you for doing them. So I think I'm going to do that same thing. I love that because it is very easy to get to. And then the second question I had was, do you, Allison, have a particular preference or suggestion or recommendation of using either Mailchimp or Constant Contact? Is one better than the other, or?
Not that I know of. Mailchimp is the only one that I've ever used. I'm trying to remember if I've used another one for clients. I don't think so. I think it's the only one that I've ever used. So I don't have personal experience with the other ones. The people that I know who have Constant Contact, or I haven't heard any complaints about Constant Contact. Active Campaign is another one that I've heard really good things about. So yeah, I don't think it makes that much of a difference. I think they all do more or less the same thing, because when one starts doing one thing, the others go, oh wait, we should do that. So
yeah, I just didn't know, like, cost effective. Oh, Mailchimp has free. Oh, yay. Free is for me. I just chose. Thank you, Samantha.
yeah,
And I'm
Mailchimp
not sure if this is still true, but Mailchimp tends to be a little bit more intuitive for the non-techies. Aweber and not Constant Contact, but the other one,
Active Campaign.
Active Campaign, they're like not as intuitive for the non-techie.
Yeah, Lee put Mailer Lite in there as well. That's another one that I think I've heard of, but again, I don't have any personal experience with.
Yeah, I was just looking to see what's more cost effective for I don't need tons and bells and whistles. I just don't have money to put up front. So that's why I was just looking for some, suggestions. So thank you, ladies.
Yeah, yeah, Mailchimp is free up until you get a certain number of subscribers, and it's like 100,000 or something like that. It's a lot.
Yeah, 2,000. It's 2,000.
2,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So thank you. Yeah. So yeah, that's a lot. If you want to do some of the things like audience segmentation or sending it out at different times, you do have to pay for that. It's not a lot. I think I pay like $12 a month to Mailchimp for that. So that's an option. But yeah, if you just want to send one general newsletter every week or every month, and you don't have a big list, then yeah.
I think
and
the
then they have
$12 a
those
month
templates.
one is now 17, and I have it for 10. So the sooner you get into it, the more they'll hold your price forever.
Mhm.
Okay, okay. And then, so they, even the free version though, they have those templates and all that stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right.
Yeah, I think with Mailchimp, you might be a little limited as to which templates you can use in the free version. But you can also just create your own template and just like move stuff around, and they make it really easy to like add a text block or add a video block or an image or whatever it is you want to throw in there. So
Okay.
it's very customizable and yeah, very easy to use.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
And the paid version, if you're ever thinking about getting a VA to help you with stuff, because VAs are wonderful to have hit around in the back pocket, you have to get at least the minimum paid version for Mailchimp to be able to have a couple of different roles on it.
That's true.
Because some people just don't, they like to hire people to do the stuff because it's
Yeah.
a lot of detail and tech and stuff.
Yeah.